Welcome back to Tattoos, Code, and Data Flows. Very excited today for our guest, Derek Fisher. He is a university professor. He's a vice president of application security. He's an author. He works with kids to teach kind of the best practices around application security at a young age. Very excited to have him. Welcome, Derek.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome, Derek. Really excited to have you on the podcast today. And I have to say that you're the first podcast guest that actually has a better beard than I do. So I really appreciate the facial style that you're representing, or we're both representing on the podcast today. So very much
these things take time. That's
they
not
do.
it's not easy.
It's dedication,
And especially when you can't grow on top. You can't cultivate it on top, so you got to cultivate it somewhere. So
I got it. So just for the audience, why don't you let everybody know who you are, kind of what your background is, what your experience is, just so people can get to know Derek a little bit better.
Sure. My name's Derek Fisher. I am vice president at Envestnet and for application security. I've been in engineering at some capacity for 25 years or so. I started out in hardware engineering, got into software engineering, and then eventually made my way into security. So I've kind of seen the full stack, so to speak, of how engineering happens. I understand what it takes to not just deploy software, but to get the hardware in place and things like that as well. So it's been a great ride these past 24 or so years. Security's definitely been a good passion that I got into, and I'm very grateful for getting into this field. And it's been a great learning experience. It's been a lot of interesting topics in security that are just it's fun to be a part of this field. So
it's never dull. It definitely is never
No.
dull, and it's ever changing. So you just wait a couple minutes, they say, and things will change, and there'll be new issues, new technologies, new everything. So it definitely keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the sessions, one thing I wanted to just ask you about. I noticed, and I've seen that you do a lot of teaching at the university level. I mean, give us a little bit of a background on what it is to teach the next level of cybersecurity professionals in this day and age of ever-changing landscape, as we just mentioned.
Yeah, it's funny. I think, for us that are in the cybersecurity space, of course, it's important. So we always feel like this is a very important place for us to be, and we're doing the good work and all that stuff. And I remember how I got into teaching at Temple was actually going to a fellow coworker who was teaching a class on quality assurance. And he had asked me, hey, you want to come in once a semester and just kind of talk about application security? And I said, sure. So that kind of led into creating a course for Temple University. And I'll never forget that the gentleman that got me involved at Temple, he's like, nobody's going to sign up for that course. It's just nobody cares about, nobody's going to care about security. But the course is extremely popular. I consistently have a wait list. I max out on my student seats, and then there's an equivalent wait list of individuals waiting to get in. And that's not for me, bragging about the popularity of my course. I think what it shows is that there's a lot of people that are interested in this space, and I think more importantly, teaching those that, and Matt, I'm not sure if you have a computer science background, your degree, or those that are listening have a computer science background, or a degree. But, when you went through your computer science degree, there wasn't necessarily a security course, mm-hmm. right? They taught you how to write code that you'll never ever use in production, or never use, when you get out into the real world. But they teach you how to code, and they teach you, data structures and things like that. But there wasn't a lot that was being taught about security. So I feel like the course is definitely providing, for me, I look at it as those of us that are in the security space, this is help for us, right? It's people that really want to learn how to write secure code, but don't always know where to go. And seeing the popularity of the course and seeing people that are interested in the course and taking it seriously really kind of gives a little bit of hope that, we're getting people to understand what this means to not just their, development, the way they develop code, but also their own personal growth in engineering, because that's one of the things I usually impart with my course when the course is done, is that I state like, hey, if you decide to go down this security path, you're in pretty good shape, right? If you there's no shortage of security needs, in this space. So I think overall it's fulfilling, it's good, it's great to see the enthusiasm and the amount of people that get involved, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, my daughter's actually a senior in high school this year and going off to college next year. And I've implored her and all her friends, male, female, everybody, to say, you want a job that's going to get you, well paid and a job immediately. Go into application security or
Yep.
information security. And they all look at me and go, no, I want to be a philosophy major. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to push you, but you want to have a great career to start right out of the gate. That's a path you should go down. So anyone
Right.
that's listening that is in college right now or taking university courses, application security is a profession. There's many different kind of disciplines, flavors, whatever you want to call it, and it's definitely a job right out of school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Well, that was a little longer introduction than normal, but I just wanted to hit on that because I'm very passionate about training and making the next generation aware of the opportunities within application security.
Yep.
So with that, we'll go into our beginning session, which is thinking out loud.
Thinking out loud, maybe we found love right where we are.
Well, Derek, so you do a lot of things in your day job and your teaching responsibilities. I know you write a lot of articles and things like that. What is it that you're thinking about most these days? What is the thing that you wake up and go, that's something I'm challenged with. That's something I think about on a daily basis. So this is the thinking out loud session.
Yeah. So, like you stated, I think this field is ever evolving. I think there's a lot of opportunities. So there's never a shortage of things to be thinking about. When you get up in the morning and trying to really understand what challenges am I going to tackle today. And I lead a team of, we have about 24 people on the team for application security. So
Wow.
we cover a lot of ground. But, and I've stated that in the past. I mean, the size of my team is large comparatively to what I've managed in the past, for this particular function. And it's still never enough, right? It's like, you're still outnumbered, and you could have a team that's 2-3 times that size and still be outnumbered. But that kind of leads into what I think about on a daily basis is really, how do I scale my team? How, not just my team, but how do I scale the application security function and make it so that my team is more efficient and decentralized. And because my team, myself, the members of my team can't be in every single conversation, and be part of every security decision that's ever made in development. And so we need to be able to know how to scale our functions, know how to scale our tools, know how to scale security in general, and more importantly, make it so that one of the phrases I like using is that shared responsibility model, similar to what we do in cloud, where there's things that application security can be responsible for. There's things that we are the experts on, we're the SMEs on, but in reality, there has to be responsibility from the development teams, and part of my team's responsibility is making sure that the development team has those tools and capabilities in their hands so that they can make those decisions early on and get them done correctly.
That's awesome. And I'm very impressed that you have that many people on your team, because a lot of times I talk to someone in a similar role and responsibilities that you have, and they have 3, 4, maybe
Yep.
5 people, and they have like 6 or 7 open headcount all the time that they're looking to
Yep.
fill. So I'm pretty impressed that you're able to staff a team that large within your organization.
And again, it's still never enough. It's like it's
Do you have a secret sauce you want to share with anybody of how you do it? Is it, free Mercedes Benz for everybody? I mean, how do you get that many people on the team?
I think some of it is because I've had this conversation with the leaders on my team, is that we have to make it so that the members of our team are doing things that are engaging and fulfilling. Money is always a motivator. It's going to motivate people to come to jobs and stay in jobs, but money doesn't motivate me. I mean, of course, at the end of the day, money motivates everybody, but
You're honest.
yeah. But I mean, honestly, like equally important, if not more so important, it is the fact that, am I making a difference, and am I doing something that's, fulfilling for myself, and also doing good work, for the organization. And I think that's the kind of thing that we have to be able to, as leaders, we have to be able to provide that to, our direct reports, our indirect reports, is give them something to, really feel like they're making a contribution to an organization, and really advancing security, in the security function, but advancing security and making sure that they're really feeling like they're a part of something bigger. So some of that is honestly having a strategy and having a roadmap that that makes sense and kind of excites people, and or at least I hope it excites my team. That, like, we're trying to do things that it excites me. So I don't but having those kind of things where people can say, okay, I understand what I'm doing. I understand the bigger picture. We're not, and talking specifically about application security, we're not just standing up tools, spitting out reports and slapping them in the faces of developers and telling them to go fix stuff. Right. I think, for us, it's getting beyond that and doing some work that's a little bit more exciting and cutting edge, and not just, scan and report type of kind of historical way application security worked.
No, I got you. And I always feel that, exercising that big muscle between your ears is important. And if you're not challenged within your day job, then, it's just a job, but instead of
Right.
a career. And,
Yeah.
always, I don't know, putting yourself out there for new challenges, I think is a good exercise just to keep yourself sharp.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll move to our next section, which is usually a pretty fun section for our guests.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
So everything can't be perfect. So what ticks Derek off on a day-to-day basis in terms of this great ecosystem of application security, information security, cloud security, what have you? What are some of the things that really, kind of rub you the wrong way?
That we still can't. I'm trying to be political about this, so that we still
No
can't.
political. You can be
No,
raw and
I know, but
disgusting.
that we still can't figure out how to really identify real risk to the organization. And I mean that in the sense that, and I don't mean this, just everybody has this problem where we make decisions based on what I would say are more, qualitative type of risk, as opposed to quantitative. And so we feel like, okay, this is a risk, and it's a risk because the CVSS score is high, and this is a high risk application, right? And that's
Mhm.
our ham-fisted way of saying we need to fix this now. And and in some parts of organizations, they're a little bit better at knowing, okay, we can attribute a risk score to this application, and we know that when this vulnerability comes out, it's we can apply it to this product or application and say, okay, here's our real risk, right? But that's few and far between. I think the vast majority of when you talk to vendors, sometimes you still hear whether they're vendors often will paint the worst picture possible to make sure that their product is chosen, but they'll often paint a picture that shows that organizations often take the CVSS score as as gospel, right? They say, okay, well, this is a 9, so therefore we have to drop everything and go fix it. And I think we're still not at that level of maturity in engineering in general and security in general to really be able to say, I think we all know how to do it, but sometimes it's just you're always playing catch up with engineering. You're always playing catch up with the business who's trying to release functions and release features, because there's new things that they want to release to the clients, and so the engineering is always under pressure to get those features out, and we're not really stepping back and saying things like, what's the actual risk of this product? And if we know what the risk of this product is, when we get a vulnerability that comes in, how do we apply, that vulnerability or that or through threat modeling or through risk assessments, how do we apply those findings to this application and put it in real value for the organization and say, hey, this risk or this vulnerability will impact availability for this product. And if we know that for every minute that this product is down, we lose, $1 million, well, that's great information, right? But I don't think most organizations are there.
Yeah, a couple comments on that. A previous guest on the podcast, Walter Haydock, said that risk should be in dollar figures, and you should
Yep.
always kind of not just how scary it is, or if it's a 9.9 or a million ranking of whatever kind of ranking system you're looking at, but if you can equate it into dollars, then it actually becomes real. So this
Right.
could cost us XYZ. It's X per minute of downtime, and this could take us down for a day. So do the
Yeah.
math.
Right.
The
Yeah.
other question I have, when you go through these exercises, do you get, when you try and communicate risk to the development teams who are, going down the path of next release, next awesome new feature is the prove it. Like, this
Right.
is really bad, and they just look at you and say, prove it.
Yep.
And you have to go through an exercise, and it's not about, okay, this has happened, this is a real issue, but you have to give them real concrete evidence in a demonstration of how this would be bad for them. Is that something you ever experience?
Isn't that what we all experience, right? So
Yeah, I just
we-
like to put it out there.
yeah, no, it's, I think, the good thing is that I think that's actually a level of maturity, right? Because I think what it used to be was just go away, right? It's a security issue, whatever. Security is just distraction. Not that that was the case everywhere all the time, but I believe today we're seeing a lot more, uh, a warmer experience with engineering, where they realize that yes, there are security risks, there are things that could bring down applications or expose data, and so forth. So I think we're beyond the state where we had to just even get in the door. But you're right. I think we're at the point now where in a lot of cases we do get asked that prove it, and honestly, sometimes that's good, because I think it we need to be able to be honest as well, to say, yeah, this isn't a real issue. And I came from the software engineering space. I came from engineering, and I tend to sympathize with engineering a lot, maybe too much sometimes, where, I will err on the side of, okay, can we manage this risk? Right. I don't want to, I'm not the type of person, and my team, we're not really that built this way to just be gates, where we're just going to say, nope, can't go out. It's more, can we manage this risk appropriately enough for you to continue to go? And so I think, when we get into those conversations about, prove it, I think that's helpful for us to be able to say, yeah, this isn't a real issue, and we're good, or no, this is a real issue, and here's the proof for it. And I think that's also a learning opportunity for engineering, right? If we're able to prove it and show, because a lot of times in those conversations, it's not, an AppSec engineer and the developer, just sitting by themselves in a room. It tends to be a broader audience of people. So I think that gives an opportunity for us to be able to even just show, like, here's how, cross-site scripting can occur, or, server-side request forgery or something like that. Here's how it occurs. Yep. And I think that gives, some ammunition that, okay, well, maybe this one isn't an issue, but now you've seen how it can be done. And now you can see, how to protect your code against something like that, that gives you an opportunity to learn how to do that for the next time.
No, all great points. So we're going to flip to our next section, which is the Nirvana World section. So we're flipping at 180. We had our rant session, the things that, kind of tick us off. But if you did have your magic wand, you were Harry Potter, and you could say a spell, what would be the thing you fix? Would it be the things you mentioned in your rant session, or would be there more of a kind of a bigger picture in terms of what you would fix if you had the power?
First of all, I was trying not to tap my or nod my head when I came on. Every time I hear that song, it's like I got to start bopping the head a little bit. Feet were tapping though. So no, I mean, if it was perfect world, wouldn't we all want no more attackers, right? We would just make all the attackers go away, and but then again, we'd be out of a job. So I guess that's not the perfect world. So, but no, I think honestly, for me, and I've made this comment before in my role, is that if I'm doing my job right, if my team's doing their job right, developers never see us, and but they have the confidence to code without fear, fear of creating vulnerabilities. So it is creating that secure paved road, giving them all the resources and tools to be able to develop code, provide that fast feedback loop of vulnerabilities, or potential security issues back to them as quickly as possible, so that so they have an opportunity to resolve it then. I think, as I mentioned, yeah, my team is large, but we still can't scale, to the size that we need to. And I think that really means that we need to rely on things like automation and being able to provide the appropriate tooling to the developers to be able to have insight into the security issues that they may be developing, and more importantly, a way to resolve it.
No, very, very good. And thank you for that. That's, very insightful. Hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. So we'll move into the more fast-paced section that people seem to like, is the speed round.
'Cause he's going the distance. He's going for speed.
So the speed round is, as if you've listened to it before, about quick questions, quick answers. I mean, you can go on a little bit longer than just a one-word answer, but just like to get your opinion on a few things and go from there. So in the speed round, do you in the organization call it DevOps, DevSecOps? Two different things, the same thing? What is your opinion on the two different terms of DevOps or DevSecOps?
Yeah, I mean, DevSecOps is still a term, but we don't call it Dev Test Ops, right, or Dev Regression Ops, right? So I think it was important for us to have the term DevSecOps and to give it a name and to give it life several years ago. But to me, I think it should just be DevOps. Security should be implied. So I think it's still there, but whether we call it something or not, again, we don't call it Dev Test Ops. But we still imply that testing is being done. So,
Yep.
so I think there's still space for it. I think that it still should just be DevOps.
No, totally understand. Next question, is shift left still a thing? Is the term getting a little bit stale? What's your opinion on the whole concept of shift left, especially in aggressive DevOps CI/CD pipelines?
Yeah, I mean, shift left is still extremely important, because, again, especially the way I think about application security is that, again, my team, the less you see of my team, the better. So if we can provide the appropriate tools and the ability for developers to understand the security issues while they're in that design phase and while they're in that development phase, then I think, obviously we have less reliance on security tools further to the right. So especially in that faster CI/CD world where you can have, maybe you are pushing to production multiple times a day, then maybe shift left kind of disappears in that sense, where you're able to essentially fix in prod. If you're deploying multiple times a day, you're essentially fixing in prod. But if you're able to get that fast feedback loop, and you're able to code a change and have it deployed within an hour or two, that's light years ahead of where we were a couple years ago, where it would take you weeks to get something out to production. So I think shift left, obviously there's still a place for risk assessments, threat modeling, secure designs, that kind of stuff. So I think the term is still valid.
Oh, awesome. So kind of a new question in the speed round that I've been interested in asking people is, the role that is kind of evolving and gaining more traction is the site reliability engineer. Is this something that you have in your organization, or is this something that you're researching to add? I mean, what's your take on the concept of the site reliability engineer?
Yeah, we do have it in our organization. And I think that, to your point, I mean, I think that is something that's gaining a lot of steam. And yeah, we definitely have that. I think for us, they've been a very good partner for our team, in the sense of being able to integrate our tools into the CI/CD pipeline, ensuring that cloud deployments are occurring securely, that we're looking for configuration drift and things like that. And so they've been an equal partner to us, in the same vein as the development environment or the development organization, just because at the end of the day, they're still developing, even though it's more. I'll say they're more akin to ops as opposed to development, but they're still doing development work. But being the keepers of pipelines and ensuring that code is getting out to or the products are getting out the cloud. I mean, that's a critical organization for application security to be partnered with.
Awesome. So next question, have you heard about application security posture management, or ASPM? Is, we're kind of, my organization is really, talking about this a lot as the next big thing to really help understand applications production. What's your level of knowledge on application security posture management?
Yeah, I mean, I know that term gets tossed around a lot, so I'll actually throw it back to you. Can you define that term?
Sure. It's we, in this world of, cloud native and development, we're very, very cognizant of the cloud infrastructure and cloud security posture management and the infrastructure and making sure that the cloud is secure. What about that application that's in the cloud? What about the aggressive CI/CD pipeline and application architecture drift, which you mentioned just a second ago? What about the data flows that have multifaceted type issues where there's a critical CVE that's also touching PII data, that's also touching a third party? How do you keep up with that when you're releasing, tens, if not hundreds of times a day? People don't have that architectural lens on their applications that are in production. They just hope they're there and don't really know if something that was out of band changed the architecture or the proved architecture of the application. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's tough. I mean, I think, again, this is an example of where engineering is often ahead of security, right? And so it's like, you try to keep up, you try to keep ahead, and this is where I think things, certain tooling for IAC that can do drift checks and stuff like that is helpful. But to your point, I mean, there's data integrations, there's third party integration to services that you expose. That's tricky, right? We're beyond the days of the data center where you're, the walled garden, right? You have
Yep.
a wall, literally a wall around, your data center, and you have very few exits and entrances, and both logically and physically. But with the cloud and with the integrations and with data, getting moved all over the place. I mean, it's hard. It's not easy. But I think there is some tooling that can help, especially in the infrastructure as code realm. But like even policy as code can also be an assistant there. But it's tricky. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's almost a wild, wild west, right? It's it's a land grab, right? Everyone's like, oh, the government's giving away free land. Let's go plant our flag,
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And last question. I mean, I like to educate the audience on, people that industry professionals and experts like yourself follow. Who do you look up to in the industry? Who do you follow on LinkedIn or, white papers or social media to learn more about, the whole ecosystem of application security, information security, cloud security, all of the above?
Yeah, I'm going to be boring on this one. I don't really follow anybody specifically, but I do. I'm on LinkedIn pretty frequently throughout the day. I do like to grab some good articles and get some learning off of that. The one thing I do, I'm a very avid podcaster, podcast listener. So I listen to everything from technology to security to finance, politics, and even just mental health stuff. And so I have a pretty wide range of podcasts I listen to, and I think that's important for anybody that's not just security people, but just in the technology space, is to really have a wider view of the world, and I think that's been kind of helpful for me, is to not, plus mentally you can only you can only do so much security podcast listening before you start number one, start hearing the same thing over and over again, and number two, just want to quit your job and go become a farmer. But no, I think I don't again follow anybody in particular, but I do try to recognize good content when I see it.
So you're saying you're a free agent. You're not really tied to anybody, but you like to play the field.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up the speed round. So now my favorite time, where I get to ask the questions.
Your Honor, I move to disqualify Ms. Vito as an expert witness.
Can you answer the question?
No, it is a trick question.
Well, not a trick question, but a real question. You mentioned a couple of times around threat modeling, and threat modeling is something a lot of people are passionate about. But how do you do threat modeling in this day and age of that CI/CD pipeline that is changing every day? And I always say there's two concepts to threat modeling. There's the proactive, before a line of code is written, but that's going to get stale as soon as you start writing code and then changing it 100 times a day. How does threat modeling fit in the world, in the tooling ecosystem of cybersecurity these days?
You know, I like threat modeling because I think it's a fun activity. It's one of the shouldn't say it's a fun activity, but I mean
Interesting. It's an interesting activity.
exactly, and it's one of my favorite topics to talk about when teaching at the university is that being able to just get people to think about things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just a matter of asking a question that nobody's really thinking about. So I do like the activity of threat modeling. I think the problem comes with, like you stated, I mean, in the dynamic kind of space that we're in, where there's deployments occurring rapidly, code is changing rapidly, and decisions that are often made at the onset can change within a few weeks or a few days or a few hours of that decision being made. And so that that alters your threat model, and that alters the way that you view the threats to the application. And so there's still, I think, regardless, I think that threat modeling is still, if not one of the most powerful tools, definitely something that every organization should be doing. But it's still kind of one of those examples of where it has to be done I shouldn't say has to be, but oftentimes done in the design phase. When you're making those architecture decisions, you create that threat model. You determine what threats may be posed to your architecture. You open up some functional requirements or non-functional requirements, or open up some tasks to resolve things. But to your point, a lot of times it becomes a check the box mentality of like, okay, threat model's done, move on. And there's not really a great answer. I know that there's obviously organizations out there that do better in terms of automating threat modeling, which is definitely something that is of interest for, I think, a lot of people is how to automate that process, because I believe threat modeling is still one of those things that's like, it's very difficult to automate. We can automate a lot of the other work that we do, but threat modeling is something that's a little bit too difficult to automate.
Yeah, no, totally understand. Well, that's it for my questions. Pretty simple. Wasn't too painful, was it?
No.
Okay, awesome. So we're gonna, head to the end part of the podcast. I always have to ask the question because of the name of the podcast.
Now he's getting a tattoo, yeah, he's getting ink done. He asked for a 13, but they drew a 31.
So you said you have a team of what, 15 people?
About 20, 22, 23.
Oh, I totally missed that. Sorry. I should have wrote that. My bad. So 22, 23 in application security. When you go to hire people, is, their style, tattoos, piercings, that type of thing, is that something that comes into the equation, or is it more about their capability or their background to fill the role and responsibility of the job?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of hiring the right people for the role. And so, sometimes that means that they're non-technical people. Sometimes that means that they don't have security experience, or, whatever the case is. As far as tattooing goes, I don't have a problem with it. I think that there's maybe I'll catch heat for this, but there's a line. I think, if you have a tarantula tattooed on your face, that might be a little bit hard to get by. But no, I think, for the most part, most people are extremely, tasteful in the way that they, do their tattoos. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm not looking at that. For me, it's more, can you do the job? Can you get it done? And can you be effective at your role?
Yeah, you're pretty consistent. Face tattoos tend to be a no-no, but tattoos in general seem to be an okay thing. So
yeah,
thank you for
that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, awesome. So we're going to move it. Derek, it's been a great conversation. Thanks for coming on. And this is your opportunity to kind of get on your soapbox and talk about things that may not necessarily be involved with security or your job, but, something that you're passionate about that you'd like to share with the audience.
Sure. So, I guess a few years ago, I started writing security books for children, and so I released 2 of them. And that's been I've gone to libraries and schools and taught security awareness. And to me, I think that's important for not just us and our profession and our field, but it's generally good good behavior to be learned, especially at a young age. There's a lot of kids these days. They're being exposed to technology and not really given a lot of the guidance and guardrails that I think some of us in the security space take for granted. We know that the dangers that are out there and the risks that are out there, and I think we're exposing children to things that they're ill equipped for. So I think for me, I enjoy that type of activity. And it's fun, it's exciting, it's always engaging with the kids, because they're especially when we talk about things like video games and things like that, they obviously perk up. So but yeah, it's been exciting. I never in a million years thought I would do something like that, but it's been exciting, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. The analogy I like to give there is, we still make kids go through driver's ed and in road time to learn how to drive a car, but we just give them their cell phone, and
Right.
that internet access, that social media access they have is almost as dangerous as driving a car.
Yep.
But we give them no training whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
I applaud you for that work with kids to educate them to be better, I guess, cyber citizens of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the time today. I really appreciate you having on as a guest.
Yeah. Thank you for the time. And this is really enjoyable.
Just want to thank Derek for joining us today. Great conversation. Please like, subscribe, follow, download, and listen to the podcast on your podcast preference platform. Thank you for watching, listening, and all that good stuff.